What's up, everybody? Alex here. Welcome back to another video. It's Friday. Cheers, y'all. Nothing like a PBR on a Friday to remember just how trash you are. I'm just kidding. I love PBR. No judgment for those who drink PBR or anything. No judgment for people who drink anything. So, fun one today. I don't know exactly what I'm calling this video, but this is a epic, mega, badass, cool bargain haul, we'll call it. There was a local kind of a pop-up record show here in my area in Columbus, Ohio, last weekend that featured about 5 or 6 vendors or so, but all local guys that I've seen out before. I went over to, I wasn't sure what I wanted. You know, record shows, I kind of go all over the place with, because to be honest with you, I've never gone to a record show where I've found something like a grail or something outstanding that was fairly priced. I think with the presence of Discogs and eBay and all this stuff now, I've gone to shows and I've typically found that the records I want are typically priced anywhere between 20 to 30% higher than what I would be able to find on a Discogs or even in a local shop. So I've never really connected great with a lot of the different record shows, but there was a vendor, a guy there that I knew, who had about 6 boxes set up and everything was $5. And so I said, you know what, like, I'm always thinking about, you know, plugging holes in the collection or maybe artists that I haven't gotten into as much. And you know what, I'll go through the $5 bins and see what's in there, full well knowing there's a reason these things are $5, which I'll get into in a second, right? Sometimes it's worth $5 because it's just a, you know, an artist that doesn't have a high demand, or they printed off 4,000 billion of these things. Sometimes the record is beat up and it skips, or it's all scratched up. Sometimes the sleeve is in terrible condition, and everywhere in between. But I do consider myself a bit of a crate digger. I love getting in there. I love finding that thing, full well knowing that sometimes it's just not going to work. So went to the $5 table. And it's tough there because you're elbow to elbow with these people, right? For those who have done these record show things, you know, like, you don't really have a lot of time to pull out each record, inspect it, all that type of stuff. So I'm elbow to elbow and I'm going through, pulling out a couple of things. And the first 3 that I pulled out, I said, you know what? These are worth more than $5. I'm looking at the discs. They're fine. And from there, I said, I think I'm just going to trust this vendor. I'm not going to go and look through every single thing. I went 3 for 3 and went from there. So I made out, I would say, pretty damn good. Everybody has a different way of doing these things. But yeah, a pretty awesome haul, I think, and I'm excited to show you what I got. About 20-ish of these are from that record show. Each of these was $5. A little bit of jazz, a little bit of metal, tons of classic rock, a little bit of psych, some stuff that I didn't have. Stuff I'm really excited for. Overall, just ecstatic about how well this haul went. And then at the end, I actually got a handful of records that I got from one of my local shops for $1. So again, dollar records, I'm all about it. So yeah, let's dive in. I'll try to go quickly, but also, you know, say a little bit about the records. I know it's like a mixed audience out there in terms of what people like or what they don't like. So I try to be as open and inclusive with my musical preferences possible, but also don't want this to be a 30-minute video. So first up, Dio, the Dio band, right? Ronnie James Dio. So this is Intermission. This, I think, was what they advertised as a double EP. Stupid. But this is a live record from 1986 on the Sacred Heart tour. Well, released in 86, but I think recorded in 85. Midway through this tour was when they fired Vivian Campbell and replaced him with Craig Goldie. Cool set. It's a short live album. What was silly here is that they overdubbed all of his rhythm parts. So they went to the studio, overdubbed Vivian's rhythm parts, replaced them with Craig Goldie's parts. And then the solos, they kept the Viv solos, but turned them way down in the mix. Overall, this is kind of just a cool relic of sorts. It's not a great live album. There is the one studio track on here, Time to Burn. I don't know if that ever showed up on any other studio albums from Dio, but yeah, Time to Burn was the actual studio track they did with Craig at the time, the new guitarist. So yeah, it's a cool relic and I'm excited I got it, but you know, I think at the time people were probably hoping for a more beefed up double Dio live record at the height of their career, which would have been awesome, but still happy to have this. Dio Intermission from 86. These are in no particular order, so it's all over the map. This next one is a total hole in the collection. I've always kind of wanted this record. Two of my favorite songs by this band are on this record. This is from 75, I believe. Northern Lights, Southern Cross from the band. Yeah, I mean, I never really heard a ton about this record outside of those two favorite songs, Acadian Driftwood and, oh gosh, what's the one they played? It Makes No Difference. Classic version played at the Last Waltz. So yeah, for $5, this is in great shape. Sleeves in great shape. Disc is in great shape. Couldn't be happier to have that for $5. Here's a classic I never actually had a copy of. I had seen a lot of reissues out there, and for whatever reason, because I'm a snob or whatever, I don't know, I always just wanted one of the originals. And for those label people out there, you know that if you want to get some original 60s stuff on the Atco label, you want that two-tone sort of yellow/tan mixed with the purple, right? That's the Atco you want. And so I never actually had the debut from Cream, Fresh Cream. And so this is on that classic kind of two-tone, almost LA Lakers style Atco label. Yeah, I will say with this, you know, the sleeve is actually in pretty decent shape. The only issue with the disc is there is a jump or two immediately right when you drop it on the first track. So from the edge of the, I guess, not the dead wax, but the run out there, or run in, I guess, right at the beginning, there's a little bit of a jump. But besides that, still plays pretty VG, I'd say, but yeah, couldn't be happier to have this. Always wanted it, and it's just cool that it's an original on that Atco label, that two-tone. And for $5, I love it, love it. Let's go to jazz here, why not? How about some Blue Note from 67? Of course, this was after the Liberty sell, so this is like a Liberty press, they would call it. But the great saxophonist Lou Donaldson, this is Mr. Shing-a-ling. Great stuff. What I will say is, although it's a Lou Donaldson record, I think Lonnie Smith is, you could listen to this and think it's a Lonnie Smith record, just the way he's just completely piping that organ. Amazing, absolutely amazing. This is when he's certainly going more funky, that late 60s type, leaning towards the fusion stuff, but obviously that funky organ from Lonnie Smith, it's just great. So yeah, awesome stuff. This is in perfect shape. Again, great hole to fill in the collection here. Hissing in Summer Lawns from Joanie, 75, I think this was. Yeah, I love this sort of era, this sort of going into a little bit more of the jazzy flourish of stuff. I love the early stuff too, obviously, all that reprise stuff, but I really like this type of sort of more, I don't want to say more creative because that implies it's less creative earlier, but yeah, this is a cool era for me. I love this era for Joanie. And as I said before, look, I mean, she obviously illustrates these, but that is one thick snake. I mean, that dude, he be thick. I just appreciate that. Body positivity and all, but snake, I'll be laying off them Twinkies, right? All right. Next one, classic live album. I mean, this is a guy who has 500 live albums. Every year he's cranking out 6 different records from his, you know, from his bootleg series and everything else. I never owned Live Rust. Now, of course, I've had Rust Never Sleeps, and for a long time, I just assumed that they're the same record, but they're not. So yeah, Live Rust. Now, I have seen this one out all the time, but usually it's, you know, 15, 18, 20 bucks sometimes. So to have this for $5, double LP, 79 Neil, love it. Great stuff. Live Rust. Here's a fun one. I actually heard about this band on the album exchange that my friends are doing over on the Canadian Stud Muffin channel. So Larry, Canadian Stud Muffin, Steve, All the World's a Stage, Marsha P, Glenn Kellaway from The Basement, and then Chris Levine from Refresher Podcast. God, I hope I got all of them right. They brought up this band. I think it's LA, psychedelic. It's California psych. I might have said San Francisco before, but I think it's LA. Psychedelic stuff here. Clearlight. I mean, that doesn't just scream that logo is 1967 California Psych. This was a cool listen. This kind of reminds me of a more Americanized version of Syd Barrett era, you know, Pipers at the Gates of Dawn type Floyd stuff. Not as quirky, not as British, but the more kind of Americanized version. But there is some kind of wild stuff on here too that's just weird that I love. So yeah, this was a super cool listen, and I'm glad I found it. And yeah, good stuff. Clearlight. This was on the Elektra label. Moving on to something completely different. Obviously, you go from Clearlight and Joni Mitchell and jazz right into what? Japanese glam? Japanese glam. For those into metal, you will know this band. This is Loudness. So yeah, this is a Japanese, whatever you want to call it, glam metal, hair metal, 80s hard rock, heavy metal. It doesn't really matter. But this is some great stuff. They've sort of positioned themselves as like the musicians band, right? So Akira Takasaki, the guitarist, still in the band, kind of creative director, if you will, is insane on the guitar. Very Yngwie, minus too much widdly. Like it's still part of the song and doesn't seem like it's over, indulgent. Awesome stuff there. I mean, these guys blew me away when I was listening to this, and his playing is just out of control. So this is Loudness, Lightning Strikes. I believe this is from 86. How about some more 80s heavy metal? Now, this was a pickup here. I already had a copy of this, and it's a rare record, and there's a reason this was $5, as you can look at it, because of this water damage down here. But this is In the Hall of the Mountain King from Sabotage, one of my favorite heavy metal bands of all time. I've talked about them a lot, but Sabotage is what later became the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So sort of all, Paul O'Neill was in charge of all this, great producer, was helping with the songwriting. This is the Oliva brothers just ripping it. This is probably arguably the height of their career, their best album. I do have a copy of it, but the record was in pretty not great shape. This one, okay, the cover's trashed, but the record, clean as hell. You do the old switcheroo and make a great deal. So this, if you got like a VG Plus cover and a VG Plus record, it's close to like a $75, $80 record. So to get this for $5, stoked on it. More metal, but this was, I think, more, not proto-metal, because, that would imply much earlier, but American heavy metal. They came out in the late 70s that a lot of people don't talk about. I'm sure all the metalheads will, and that's Riot. So this is Riot Live. I think this is another one of these sort of EP live album, short live album. This is just good old dirty New York hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it, from 82. But you can tell that obviously the 70s were such a strong part of their identity. I didn't own anything by Riot, but I got this and I love this. This was just, it's just some good attitude. What's the song on here that got me? Yeah, Lone Shark. That's just that dirty double entendre nonsense that we love and hate so much about these types of bands. But yeah, I was all in on this. So great record there. This is a fun one. I've told the story here before that when I was in high school and I was in a band with my best friend and my brother, we had opened up for the Michael Shanker group. This would have been back in 2009 or so. And so whenever I see Michael Shanker stuff, I always want to buy it. And, I got the first several he does, but I did not have this one, and I don't see this one out. So again, for $5, and this was in perfect shape all the way around. It's the Macaulay Shanker group. So this is from 87. This is Perfect Timing. This is a good album. And Rob McCauley is an incredible vocalist, and still is to this day, I believe. Like, he is someone whose voice has held up really well. But this is super 80s. I mean, it has all of the strength and challenges of the 80s production. This sounds like 1987. You can tell by Michael's just flow. I mean, look at that. Come on. He's got the fan going and everything. You can tell. But it's a hard rockin', hell yeah album. Big gang vocals. Drums sound amazing, depending on who you are, and just straight out of 1987. So, love this stuff. Macaulay Shanker, Perfect Timing. These were all just must have been in a row. How about more 80s metal? First time owning anything from this band. I've obviously known about them forever and had great respect for them. And some people might say this is their best. I don't know. If you're a fan, let me know. But this is Tooth and Nail from Dokken. Some people might say it ain't rockin' if it's Dokken, or it is rockin' if it's Dokken. I don't know. Now, George Lynch is one of the best guitarists to ever roam, right? Like, he's up there with, the Eddie Van Halens of the world, or the Steve Vai's. I mean, he's up there in that category with how good he is. And you can tell here, a lot of drama between him and Don Dokken, the singer, all that kind of stuff. But this is good stuff. I don't know that I connect with it as much as so many others do, because people love Dokken who love Dokken. But this was some pretty good stuff. I'm obviously not going to complain about it. I'll have to listen to it more to really get into it. But yeah, again, just a great deal for $5. Everything's VG Plus all the way around. Here's a fun one. Usually I don't do crazy on comps, but I saw this and thought, I was like, that is not a normal pressing. I think it's something a little bit different. The Best of Judas Priest. Now, what's funny here, this only includes tracks from Rock'n'Rolla and Sad Wings of Destiny, which was Judas Priest's first two records. When it says the best of, they didn't have anything the best of, right? So this was, at the time, was it Gull, the label. This was their approach to try to capitalize on their success because they were jumping to Columbia for their later stuff. And obviously we're going to hit it big in a little bit. But this was kind of cool because this was on the Milan label. You can kind of see a little bit of that logo up there, which was a French label. And so this is a French reissue from the early 80s, I think, which is kind of cool. So yeah, all that stuff. I love these greatest hits / best ofs where no one even knew these songs, but Sad Wings is my favorite Judas Priest record, so I'm in for that. How about more jazz? How about more original Blue Note? Stanley Tanner, Never Let Me Go. This is from 1963, I believe. This is an original stereo. But yeah, an original from 1963 with that New York address. Not Liberty, so one of those kind of officials. This is good stuff. Stanley Tanner is one of those artists that he made so much stuff here and later that, you know, a lot of times the originals are quote unquote easier to find than some of those like $5,000 Blue Notes. But yeah, anytime I can get an original Blue Note, a couple of scratches here and there, a couple of pops and clicks, but nothing crazy. Impressed with this. Great stuff. So yeah, Stanley Tanner, Never Let Me Go. We're flying. Sorry. Sip. Get it. This was a great find. Now, what I'll say, record here is in great shape. The sleeve had splits all over the place, but I did a tape job. I think I did all right with it. Again, it's $5, and the music plays great. That's all I care about. Patti Smith Horses. I think the only other Patti Smith record I had was Easter, and I loved it. I just loved the attitude, the stank, it's just, ugh, I love it. So, yeah, this was a cool find because I think this record is worth a lot more. Yeah, again, the sleeve's not in great shape, but to do the tape job on it, close up those seam splits, feel pretty good about it. But yeah, cool record, Horses. From Patti, this is on Arista. Good stuff. One of my favorite bands that I've sort of fallen in love with over the past, oh gosh, I don't know, 6 to 8 months has been the Sensational Alex Harvey Band. There's some later career records that are not great, and so I haven't added those to my collection yet, but the mid-career one I really had been looking for, and so I was stoked to see this in there because I hadn't seen it out at any of the stores, was this one, The Impossible Dream. Of course, the UK pressing of this has a great sort of comic book-inspired cover, which is amazing, and so us US people, of course, get a bunch of them in a movie theater setting. It's trash. It's trash. Give me the comic book. The actual cover of this is pretty sick from the UK. But let me tell you, the record closes with a song called Anthem. Bagpipes and all. And it is one of the most epic, outstanding songs I've ever heard. And it might have just become my favorite Sensational Alex Harvey Band song. Anthem, which closes out this record. Impossible Dream from Alex Harvey's Sensational Band. You know what I mean. Here's a fun one. This is probably worth $5, but that's fine because I needed it. Sort of that tier, I hate to talk in tiers, but maybe that tier 2 or 3 of UK progressive rock. This is the Stobs. This is Bursting at the Seams. This is kind of that sweet spot, that area of that sort of early to mid 70s after the Rick Wakeman period. It was only for one album. But this type of stuff with Bursting at the Seams, Hero and Heroine, Ghost, Grave New World, that sort of era is great. And this was just an awesome listen. One of the best songs, I completely forgot they did this song, was Part of the Union. I'm going to guess you've heard Part of the Union and you were like, that's the Stobs, because that's how I was. But what a cool ass song that was, and was sort of a huge celebration song for the Union people at the time. So yeah, Part of the Union, great stuff. Next 3 here, this is kind of a triple header. Feeling pretty good about it. You all know it's like Jimi Hendrix had the 3/4, depending on how you look at it, studio records, and then a lot of the posthumous stuff came later, right? A whole bunch of old recordings, a whole bunch of live stuff that gets put out every year by his estate, which they do a great job. And so, you know, it's always fun to try to collect as many of those as you can, right? Because it's Jimmie, it's awesome. But here's a couple that I didn't have, including some fun stuff. So this is the original soundtrack from the feature-length motion picture Experience. So I've never seen this film. Obviously it's a Jimi Hendrix Experience sort of soundtrack, you know, biography film, whatever you want to call it. Didn't have this, but this is a UK press on Bulldog Records. I think this one's on. Yeah, Bulldog Records, import from the UK. I think from like early 70s. Yeah, cool stuff there. And then this one, Hendrix in the West didn't have. This is a US press on Reprise. And this is a cool one. This was a French-only release, which actually includes Hendrix in the West that I just showed and War Heroes, which were two of those sort of posthumous releases in the mid-70s. And it's this record. So this was a twofer that only came out in France, and this is on the Barclay label, which is super cool. Like, you know, it's stuff for $5. I'm like, this is the coolest stuff ever. So yeah, I'm all in on it. 20 minutes, we're trying to do our best. Anytime I can find any sort of early Humble Pie stuff, I'm in. This is a comp of their early stuff. So again, this only came out in the UK, I believe in the late 70s, but this is Humble Pie back home again on that Immediate/NEMS label there. But this is sort of a comp of the early stuff with Peter Frampton, which I love that stuff. So yeah, this was cool. Again, UK stuff, $5. I love it. I love it. Here's a cool prog hard rock band that doesn't get talked about enough, of course, out of England. And this is Rare Bird. This is, I think, their second or third record. I might be wrong on that, but it's up there. As Your Mind Flies By. They were on the ABC label. Cool stuff. Huge heavy organ on here. Definitely those Deep Purple vibes with some weird proggy type tendencies. Yeah, not a lot of people talk about Rare Bird, but this is a cool, cool band. And this is a super cool record. So, awesome. One of those bands that the live stuff might be better than anything else. I never owned this record, but for $5, I'm taking one more from the road. Lynyrd Skynyrd, of course. It's got all the hits that you could imagine on there that you've probably heard more times than you want to, but it doesn't matter. This is a great live album that I never owned, and I'm happy to own it now. How about some Little Feat? Which one is this? Time Loves a Hero. I think this was 77 or so. This came out. The only Little Feat I had was the live one, the Columbus. So, yeah, cool to have this. Good stuff. And that wraps up the $5 stuff. Now, these next three, I think, were all $1 at my local shop. So they do something called $1 Mondays, where, you know, it's like their normal stuff that's usually $5. They mark down to $1 on Mondays. Why? Because people like me go in to look at dollar records, and then we walk out with other shit. They're smarter than we are. We know this, right? How about this? These are some cool finds here. These were both $1 because the sleeves are a little bit gooey, but the records are in fabulous shape. Nina Simone in concert and the amazing Nina Simone. Both of these were $1. As you can tell here by you can just tell by looking at it how bent up that sleeve is. But you know what? The records, check them out. Super clean. And again, I don't play the sleeve, so I'm all in on picking these up. These are not complete first pressing OGs. I think there's a second pressings, but still, I mean, they're like $20 to $25 records. So, and Nina's just great. I mean, outstanding. So these are killer records that I got for $1. And then that last one that I got for $1, cool band I had heard of a lot, sort of fall within that art rock, very difficult to describe, but maybe one of the earliest examples of art rock from England. This is Audience. This is House on the Hill. I think this came out in 71, their third record. This is some cool out there stuff. I mean, art rock we kind of associate with what came like mid-70s with like Roxy Music and obviously later Peter Gabriel and stuff, but these guys were earlier than all that. And this record, to be honest with you, kind of blew me away. So I am a fan. I'll be on more stuff or on the lookout for more Audience stuff. Yeah, awesome stuff. Cool. Well, did that all. Went through about 24 records in about 24 minutes. Hope you liked it. Next up, I'll be pairing this with some other sort of recent finds, just other stuff that I've gotten in the mail or bought out the stores or something like that. So thanks for sticking around. Appreciate it. As always, y'all, have a good weekend. Have a good week, whatever it is. And we'll talk soon. Cheers, y'all. Bye.